This is Stuff You Like, you can call me Ursa. It's Financial Literacy Month in the United States, and I have a confession to make. I really love Coronet instructional films, and their ilk. And so this episode is going to be a little different because we're going public domain with the 1948 classic, Your Thrift Habits. But first, Coronet Films were a leading producer and distributor of a whole pile of American documentary shorts shown in public schools from the 1940s right up to the 1980s. Their products are morality plays, showing us the one true way to do things, young people, but honestly, they quite often give reasonably sound advice, or at least advice which seemed sound at the time. The films are also like a little window into the past, but also just complete nonsense at the same time. Media is, after all, a time capsule. It tells you something about the culture or the subculture that produced it, the fashions, the stereotypes, and often the biases. What preoccupied the people making this? What things didn't they see at all? And of course, because it's media produced for educational purposes, it's even more focused and idealized than we would expect even regular children's media to be. Actually, watching some Coronet instructional media is a little like revisiting the VHS tapes about the dangers of drugs and alcohol that my teachers made us watch in the early aughts. The videos wanted to be hip and with it and appeal to the youth of today, and as such, 15 years later, they are hilariously dated. They were pretty hilarious even at the time. Actually, I think if they'd really wanted to dissuade a lot of my peers from using drugs or alcohol, they would have gone with, drugs and alcohol will make you spotty or stinky or unattractive in some way. But enough about my misspent youth watching bad VHS tapes. The plot of Your Thrift Habits, and oh yes, there is a plot. Go it thusly. Jack is a spendthrift who loves ice cream. His friend Ralph has a camera and Jack is envious. Ralph explains that he saved and budgeted to buy the camera, and if Jack did likewise, maybe he could afford one too. So Jack makes a graph, makes a list of expenses to watch out for, and learns the value of saving and delayed gratification and choosing between things because you can't have everything you want. Sometimes he chooses to delay his savings goal for things he really wants to do. Sometimes circumstances mean he falls a bit behind, but hey, he makes it. And he buys his camera. Well done, Jack, you're a proper consumer drone now. But you have a sweet camera, so don't even worry about it. The 40s, what with the whole Second World War thing, and also coming not so very long after the whole Great Depression thing, were much more about thrift than the 50s. Baby boomers, that is to say, children born between about 1946 and about 1960, and all of these dates are approximate because no one can agree, precisely. We're a rather more freewheeling lot than Jack and Ralph's generation. To the point that a lot of them are still in substantial debt now. They have lots of equity in their houses, in some cases, but they also have mortgages and car loans and credit card debt. It is threatening their retirement security, say advisors. Generation X, who came after that, may be doing even worse, although they do admittedly have longer to fix the problem. My parents are both baby boomers. They were born in the 50s. And I think a lot of millennials, which is to say my age group, roughly, tend to have boomer parents. Thing is, we learn from our parents, and what millennials seem to have learned as a generation is that debt is crushingly awful and credit card debt triply so. Which hasn't stopped a lot of us from ending up with soul-crushing amounts of student loan debt, but there you go. Education! Honestly, sometimes I think we'd be better off taking advice from random 40s instructional videos than most, modern financial advice outlets. Except Ramit. Ramit can totally stay. I mean, millennials are freaking our older counterparts out because our credit scores suck. But the reason that our credit scores suck is that your credit score is a numerical representation of how many debts you have taken on in your life and how many of those debts you have successfully paid back. And as a generation, we're just that much more likely to either A, say screw it, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way and save up, or B, go completely the other way, buy everything on credit and then be unable to pay it back, thus ending up with possibly an even worse credit score. So large numbers of us are in soul-crushing debt, but equally large numbers of us don't have credit cards. Or car loans, or mortgages. Instead, we kind of make like Jack and Ralph's generation, albeit in a way that involves more Wi-Fi. Relatively cheap technology coupled with higher unemployment rates, though admittedly not as high as the 80s, and less available cash mean that we may mostly have smartphones, but we also eBay and Craigslist and Airbnb. We also live with our parents longer and delay getting married and delay having children, at least as compared to the previous two generations. With that being said, My parents and aunts and uncles all left home sometime between 16 and 18, but almost all of them returned to either their family home or the home of their in-laws to stay for a while at some point during their 20s, sometimes with a small child in tow. So this whole hand-wringing boomerang generation stuff merely proves that some people have very short memories, or they had rich parents who could afford to pay their rent for them, or that they just had steady employment for the entirety of their 20s. Or some combination of the above. Maybe the writer is the one who's unusual for not living in the family home at some point during their 20s. As for me, I'm just really interested to see what the next generation coming up behind us is going to do. They're called the Centennials, and they have never lived in a time without the internet. It's a whole new world. So anyway, happy Financial Literacy Month. If you're on Twitter or Tumblr or in a place which has comments, you can tell me the most ridiculous thing anyone's ever said about your generation in terms of personal finance, links to your favorite personal finance resources. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. It's just hilarious. And if you're in the market for hilarious instructional videos, Jack and Ralph will probably make your day. They certainly did mine. That being said, my favourite instructional videos are probably the ones about grooming and personal cleanliness. Sheer joy. But that's all for this episode. If you'd like to put your thrift habits to good use and subscribe on Patreon, then you can do that up here. And if not, no worries, and I will see you at the end of the month for a book review, because it's World Book Day, and also our anniversary. See you then!